Indie Comics Deep Dive with Mona and Sam. Welcome to Indie Comics Deep Dive with me, Sam, and my awesome co-host, Mona.
Hey, everybody.
Today we're taking a deep dive into Lenovations Press's Fantastic FanBoys Adventures #1.
That's right.
And just a heads up.
Yeah.
We're going full spoiler mode on this. If you haven't read it yet, proceed with caution.
Definitely.
If you want to check it out first, got links for you in the show notes.
Absolutely.
And hey, while you're there, why not hit that like button and subscribe to the channel?
Yeah, do it. So, where do these Fantastic FanBoys Adventures even come from?
Well, they actually come from a pretty relatable experience. Just a long car ride home from a comic convention. Creator Len Mihalovich and his friend Mike Kelleher were having a deep conversation about superheroes and whether or not their capes could be functional.
Okay.
Like, could they be used as shields,
Sure.
parachutes?
Infinite storage space?
Exactly.
I can see how that conversation could spiral into some really interesting debates.
Totally. And that's the kind of energy that I think Lenovations Press really captures in this comic. It's poking fun at, but also celebrating all of those kind of nerdy debates that comic book fans love to have.
It's like meta humor for comic book fans.
Absolutely. And what makes it even more interesting is that the Fantastic FanBoys are all based on Len Mihalovich's real-life childhood friends. He even uses their real names and likenesses.
Oh, wow.
Which I think adds a really cool personal touch to the whole thing.
It really does. It makes it feel like a real love letter to childhood friendships and the power of imagination.
We've talked about Len Mihalovich, the writer and creator.
Yes.
But who else was involved in bringing this comic to life?
Well, Phil Miller, who did the awesome art for the main story, Len himself on colors,
Right.
with some assists from Pat Sketchmatic Pitts. Let's talk about the main story in issue #1. Fantastic FanBoys Adventures #1 takes us back to the 1970s and follows the escapades of 4 friends, Lee, Freddie, Rodney, and Jimmy, who are all about creating their own comic book.
Nice.
What's so cool is that each guy has his own role, you know?
Okay.
Lee writes, Freddie draws, Rodney handles the inking and lettering, and Jimmy brings the color.
That's a fantastic setup. It really captures that collaborative spirit of making comics.
Yeah.
It reminds me of all those hours I spent with my buddies dreaming up our own superhero epics.
It's totally relatable, right?
Oh, yeah.
And in this issue, Lee has created this amazing over-the-top superhero called the Living Rocket.
Okay. I have to know what exactly makes this living rocket tick.
Just imagine this, a football player named Adam Venture who decides the best way to fight crime is to strap a giant bottle rocket to his back and blast off into the sky.
Wait, a bottle rocket like the kind you light on the 4th of July?
Yeah.
That's ambitious, to say the least.
It is, and the other fanboys immediately start ripping into the concept, poking fun at the impracticality of it all.
Of course, it wouldn't be a true comic book brainstorming session without some good-natured ribbing and some serious nitpicking.
Totally, and what's awesome is that each critique gets its own visual representation.
Oh, really?
Freddie the artist is drawn by Mike Kelleher.
Okay.
Ruli Akbar brings Rodney's critique to life.
Cool.
And the late Jim Taylor illustrates Jimmy's point of view. So it's like each character has their own style and their own way of expressing their ideas.
It's like a comic book within a comic book.
Yeah.
What a clever way to showcase their different personalities and artistic styles.
Right.
So we have the living rocket and these hilarious critiques. What else is happening in this first issue?
Well, along with the main story, we also get these side-splitting comic strip shorts featuring Lenovations Press's other characters, Buckethead, Red Lightning, and Lobster Man.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold up. Buckethead, Red Lightning, Lobster Man. These names are amazing.
I know, right?
Tell me more.
They're a real riot. Buckethead is actually Lee's superhero alter ego, and his weapon of choice is a smelly fish market apron.
A smelly fish market apron as a weapon that's unique.
Right. According to Lee, the odor is supposed to ward off evil.
Okay.
Then we have Red Lightning, created by Rodney.
Uh-huh.
He's constantly getting teased because the lightning bolt on his costume is yellow, not red.
Oh, I love that classic comic book humor.
Yeah.
What about Cowboy and Lobster Man?
Well, Cowboy Freddy's creation is all about the Wild West, except his mom doesn't approve of guns, so he fights crime with a bow and arrow.
All right.
And then there's Lobster Man, with the brainchild of Jimmy. His power is turning bright red in times of danger, which, as we all know, is actually what happens when you boil a lobster.
That's hilarious. It's like they've taken every cheesy superhero trope and turned it on its head.
Exactly. And speaking of cheesy, you won't believe this, but even Tracksuit Man makes a cameo appearance.
Oh, I wouldn't miss that for the world. What's our tracksuit-clad hero up to this time?
Well, let's just say he has a rather unfortunate encounter with a flock of wild turkeys that prevents him from mailing his taxes on time.
Wait, is that based on a real story?
Believe it or not, it is. Len actually shared the real social media posts about the incident in the comic. Apparently, he was genuinely terrorized by these turkeys.
That is too good. I love that they're weaving real-life anecdotes into the comic. It adds a whole other layer of absurdity. It makes it feel so authentic. So we've got superhero shenanigans, quirky comic strips, and real-life turkey terror. What else is packed into this first issue of Fantastic FanBoys Adventures?
So, Lenovations Press is known for hiding these little Easter eggs in their comics, like these subtle details and references that reward readers who are paying attention.
Oh, I love Easter eggs. What kind of Easter eggs can we find in Fantastic FanBoys?
Well, for starters, the fanboys themselves.
Oh, right.
Like we said, they are all based on Len's real-life friends.
Yeah.
So that's fun. But there's also stuff like Lee is sporting a Section 12 shirt, which is a nod to one of Lenovation's other series.
Oh, I love that.
And there's even a joke about a character that Lee created who fights crime at the airport, which is a nod to Tracksuit Man.
Oh, that's great.
Ooh.
It sounds like they're building this whole interconnected world across their different titles.
Exactly. And that makes sense because this world extends beyond just this first issue of Fantastic FanBoys Adventures.
Oh, there's more.
There is. So, Fantastic FanBoys Adventures was originally planned as a single issue, but it sold so well that Lenovations Press decided to keep the story going.
That's amazing. I guess everyone loves a good dose of nostalgia and comic book humor. What can we expect in issue number 2?
From what I've heard, the fanboys are going to be facing off against Bigfoot.
Bigfoot. Really? That's unexpected.
Right.
What do you think makes this comic so special? What makes it stand out from all the other superhero comics out there?
One of the things that I think really makes Fantastic FanBoys Adventures stand out is how self-aware it is. How willing it is to just poke fun at all those tropes and conventions that we see in superhero stories.
And it's not just parody for parody's sake.
No, you can tell that Len Mihaljevic genuinely loves and respects comics.
He does, yeah.
So it's like this really affectionate satire that is both celebrating and critiquing all of the things that we love about the superhero genre.
Yeah.
And then the fact that he's grounding this story in his own real life experiences.
Right.
And friendships just adds this extra layer of authenticity and heart that I think is missing from a lot of superhero comics.
It feels so genuine.
It does. And of course, we can't forget how funny it is.
Right.
I mean, the living rocket.
Come on.
It's just such a brilliant concept, and the way that the fanboys are constantly bickering and nitpicking each other's ideas.
Yes.
It's so funny and so relatable.
It's like they're giving voice to all of thoughts and critiques that we've all had.
Yes.
While reading other superhero comics.
Exactly.
I was like, yes, I've thought that too.
So it's a comic that manages to be funny and thought-provoking, nostalgic and contemporary, all at the same time.
It's a really great blend.
It is.
So for our listeners who are ready to dive into this wacky world, where can they find Fantastic FanBoys Adventures #1?
You can find it on Lenovationspress.com, IndiePlanet, DriveThruComics.com, and Global Comics. We'll make sure to include all those links in the show notes.
Perfect. And don't forget, if you want to explore more of the Lenovations universe, you can read the first issues of Section 12 Flashback and Section 12 Declassified for free on their website.
Definitely check those out.
So Mona, before we wrap up, what's one thing that really struck you about this comic or about Lenovations Press in general?
You know, it's their ability to take something ordinary and spin it into something extraordinary, like Tracksuit Man. At first glance, he's this goofy character based on an everyday annoyance.
Right. It's true. They take these relatable experiences and turn them into this new lens through which we see the world, all with a sense of humor that's clever and thought-provoking.
Exactly. And it's not just Tracksuit Man. Their other original characters, like the Fantastic FanBoys, also have this quirky, relatable quality to them.
I think it's because they're based on Len's real-life friends. It gives them this genuine feel like you're getting a glimpse into their actual childhood.
Totally. And those adventures are full of these hilarious offbeat moments that feel so real, like the Tracksuit Man versus Turkeys comic strip. It's a perfect example of how Lenovations takes a real-life event and turns it into this laugh-out-loud story.
It's like they're saying, hey, life is weird. Let's embrace it and have some fun with it.
Couldn't agree more.
So for our listeners out there, if you ever spent your childhood creating comics with friends, share your stories with us. We'd love to hear them. Thanks for joining us on Indie Comics Deep Dive.
It was a pleasure.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the world of comics and sequential storytelling.